What is up, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are checking out the REVV Amp's D25. It's the new 25 watt 1x12 combo. It's powered by two 6v6 tubes and of course 12AX7s in the preamp section. It comes stock with a Celestion V30, which I think fits the amp really well. Now, I will say that I am slightly biased towards this amplifier because I did have quite a bit of input in how it's voiced. This amplifier is very similar to an amp that's been out for about 4 years called the D20. That's a 20 watt head, 6v6 powered. Sounds great. In developing this one, I was allowed to give some input and work with Dan Trudeau, the chief designer and builder at REVV, to just kind of revoice things a little bit in the top end. I wanted the amp to sound a little bit more complex, but also be pedal friendly. And there were other, tweaks that we did, but I did have quite a bit of input in how this amplifier sounds. So, you know what? Let's just get right into the controls. You've got gain, treble, middle, bass, and then volume, which is essentially your master volume, your output volume, and then reverb. Now, this is something new as well that wasn't on the D20. It is a digital reverb, but you'll get to hear it in the demo. It sounds great. It's kind of a spring-style reverb, about medium length. Sounds really good. There's a gain boost, and we'll get into how that sounds in the demo, but this allows you to basically go from like pedal platform clean, which is really nice, to a bit more pushed, so the amp will growl a little bit more. It'll sound a little bit more spread out. That's a foot switchable feature, but we will get into that for sure in the demo and how that sounds. The pre-post, that is for the software, and I guess I should have mentioned that before. Every single amp REVV makes comes loaded with the 2 notes reactive load with Dyne-IR hardware and software. I love it, and I use it all the time that way. In this case, I'm not going to be demoing that part of the amp. I may later, but I really wanted to focus on just how great this thing sounds as a standalone combo. And then the thick icing on the cake is, yeah, you get all of that 2 notes embedded hardware and Dyne-IR software that's absolutely amazing. So that being said, the pre-post switch allows you to basically bypass the amp's power section into the reactive load, and it allows you to take advantage of any modeling software for power amps. So if you want to use different tubes and model that, you can. That's why that switch is there. There's a 25 down to 5 watt switch. We'll check that out in the demo. And then the speaker load switch allows you, once you push that in, it will bypass the speaker, run into the reactive load, and allow you to run XLR out to front of house or DAW through that, as I mentioned, the Dyne-IR software. Or you can plug in headphones and record silently or practice silently. And then this output level is based on the software only. So the output of the XLR or the volume of the headphone. And then this virtual cabinet control is basically, it allows you to kind of bang between 6 different cabinets. It comes stock with 6 different REVV IRs that sound great, but you can load your own third-party IRs. You can pretty much do whatever you want and assign them to any one of those 6 positions. And of course, if you're going to run the amp using MIDI, which you can, then you can access up to, I don't know, 128 different cabinets if you're that crazy. Now, on the back of the amplifier, you've got your foot switch that allows you to foot switch the reverb on and off and the gain boost on and off, which is really cool. You've got your XLR output. We discussed that. That's for running the software out into front of house or DAW, what have you. You have a ground lift for that just in case it's buzzing. There's your USB if you want to access the 2 notes torpedo editing software. You can access it via that, and that's a lot of fun. Sounds great. You have your biased set points, which is really awesome if you want to, it's not rocket science to bias an amp. So when you change tubes, you can find out what the bias is and bias it on your own. That's really handy. There's your MIDI input. Right next to that is what's called a cabinet light, and that's kind of a REVV cool feature, like if you were to plug this into another Rev cab, you could have that cab light up as well as the front of the amplifier. It's a cool feature. And you also have an effects sanded return, which is series, which is really, really nice. If you're going to run the front end of the amp a little bit hotter, you're going to want to run things like modulation and reverb and delay to the back end of the amp. That's a really nice feature. I mean, for the most part, I prefer to run everything to the front end, but there is occasion when I do run the amp hotter and I don't want my verbs and delays to take off. It's really, really nice. And then you have two speaker outputs. You have an extension cab output and then a speaker output, which is, where the amp is plugged into stock, but you can run an extension cab and then you can run 4 or 8 ohms. The speaker that's in this amp is an 8 ohm speaker. If you're going to run another 8 ohm speaker with it, then you would switch to 4 ohms. So let's check out this REVV D25 combo. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start in what I would consider kind of pedal platform and then kind of go from there. This is pretty much how I had the amp dialed. I mean, this is a different guitar, but it sounds similar for that kind of opening piece. So this amp is really touch sensitive. It's very dynamic. I kind of forgot how loud it is in here, but it's a loud 25 watt amp for sure. If you play, kind of like I was playing, in like those cot positions. Or even neck. It'll stay really clean, like pretty high headroom clean, but if I hit it with like a humbucker, it'll start to like bark and growl, but not in a way that's unpleasing. It still sounds really big. So before I do anything, before I change any controls, I just want to hit the gain boost, because right now it's out, and I'll shut the reverb off here at some point too. But let me just hit the gain boost, the switch on the front, so you guys can check that out. So you can hear the volume raised quite a bit, and now there is a little bit less clean headroom, but you can still back off and play softly. I really like that setting. That's a setting I turned on when I used the callings for a solo. I just went back to the back humbucker. And I thought that sounded really great. What doesn't sound great is this Scratchy Volume Pot. I do apologize. But that's all I did. I didn't have to turn on anything else to just have my, kind of lower gain solo tone. So it worked out swimmingly for that. So let me go ahead and turn the gain boost back off. And let's just go through the, the tone stack. Pretty straight ahead, treble, mid, bass. The way I have it dialed right now, I think it's perfect for like pedals. If I hit it with, let's do the light speed. It's not really going to argue with pedals the way I have it dialed right now, but just in the way the treble's set up, here's the treble all the way off. About midway where I like it. And all the way up. Now that will create a little bit of gain. It's just a really usable, in my opinion, treble voicing. The mid is a fatter voicing. Check it out. So if you're wanting like a solo tone, like I could maybe gun that and then hit the gain boost, and that would give me a different type of solo tone, like a cool kind of honky solo tone. So that's the mid circuit. I like where that's put. I usually keep it about right there, depending on what I'm doing. Now the bass control, I'll just shut it all the way off. It doesn't, it's big, but it doesn't doesn't fall apart. So it's a pretty controlled low end on this amp. I like the bass control about right there. And that just depends on obviously what room you're in, and I think with a REVV 30 or maybe a Creamback 65, it's going to work killer. I mean, you might, if you were to get into maybe lower wattage speakers, it might be a little too much for the speaker. But at least in this combination, which we're listening to, which is a REVV 30, it stays remarkably tight. And then as far as the volume goes, the way I look at this amp is everything's a tone control, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does. If I turn the volume down, and then turn the master volume up. So I should say gain down and the master up. See how much brighter and chimier the amp is? But if I want the amp to sound fatter, then I can turn the volume down and the gain up. And check out, and this isn't uncommon, but it sounds great with this amp. As you start turning up the front end gain, it gets fatter. About right there is where I dig it. And then if it gets too boomy, still got plenty of room to move on the bass. Now if I dime this, it breaks up really nicely. And that's without adding the gain boost. That's just hitting, I could add mids, turn the bass down, maybe some more treble, and go that route. And then obviously if I turn on the gain boost, make sure I don't kill anything. So you can get a lot of growl out of it, dialing it that way. And it's just, it's just a super versatile combo. Okay, what I haven't covered, and I will do that right now, is the reverb. Right now it's off. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a digital reverb, but I think it sounds really good. It's a spring style verb, so obviously it's off right now. I had it about here for everything I did. I'll go ahead and turn it all the way up. I think it's a really useful reverb. I liked it, as I said, about right there. That is foot switchable, which is awesome. So there's the gain boost. The pre-boost is for the two notes embedded software and hardware that we're not going to cover in this demo, but it basically allows you to bypass the power section so that you can actually use power tube modeling. It's actually, it's really cool. But that's why that's there. 25 to 5 watts. Definitely 5 watts. It's a little bit less efficient, so it'll break up a little sooner, which could be really cool, especially in certain recording situations. That would be really nice as an ancillary track. We'll go back up to the 25 watts. And then, of course, that speaker load switch is once again there, as I mentioned before, to bypass the speaker and go to the reactive load so that you can run out the XLR of the amp and use all the Dyne IR software. It's nice to have it right on the front. You can just kill it. That sounds pretty cool. I went back to the gain boosted, and we can just hit it with, you know what, let's hit it with the tilt boost. We could hit it with, let's hit it with the light speed. I didn't hit it with the light speed in the boosted mode, so check it out. And I guess I'm doing this just to point out it won't argue with your pedals. So, and I can turn on the overdrive. That is the REVV D25. It's part of the Dynamis series. If you have any other questions on it, feel free to ask me in the comments, actually, because I do know quite a bit about this amp. But if it's something like what happens when the voltage hits the rotary girder and half decaffeinates into the embedded descapulator, I would reach out to maybe Dan Trudeau at REV. He can answer those questions for you. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.